welcome to another episode of Occupation Story Hub. Today we have a pretty cool story. Chaylen, he works in tech sales. I'll let him introduce himself, and we can talk about how he got started and how he got into this pretty cool field.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this and looking forward to the conversation.
Well, I appreciate you letting us tell your story.
Absolutely. So so a little bit about myself. So my name's Chaylen, born and raised out in the Bay Area here. And for myself, I got into tech sales, and I just, I tell people I kind of stumbled into it. Really, I had growing up, I come from a very blue collared family. My dad was in the taper and masking union, and growing up as a kid, I kind of tagged along with him on job sites. My father was very like, hey, you're gonna learn a trade, and that'll be your fallback, or that's something that you can always rely on. And that was something that I did take, really dove into with him when I was a kid and when I was younger. And how I got into, or I guess what kind of planted a seed for me, was I had the opportunity years ago to paint the IBM Research Center in San Jose, California. And at the time, I was 16. I lied about the age. I had to be 18, so wasn't even supposed to be there. But it was during the summertime, and ultimately, it was super hot during that time. There was a day there, and it was like over 100. We were out there, and we actually had the opportunity to actually go inside because at the time we were painting the outside. And when I walked in, it was just, I mean, exposing to someone that's never seen that type of, type of things from an organization was pretty neat. I mean, the office was spectacular. Their cafeteria was another thing that was just like, I was not accustomed to ever seeing that in an organization. I mean, I've gone to hospitals and I've seen cafeterias, and like that was kind of the expectation, but no, it was like 5-star chefs. Like it was just crazy. It was just mind blowing. And being at 16, I was just like, what is going on? Like, this is normal. And I remember they're like, oh, if you want something, feel free to grab it. And I was like, oh, so like, how much do I owe you guys for this? And they're like, oh, no, it's free. And I was like, wait, you guys have this every day and it's free? And they're just like, yeah. And I was just like, what the heck? Like, this is taboo. This is strange. And, when I was walking through the hallway and actually back, there was a individual that was just like, hey, you could see me in near the cafeteria area. He's just like, hey, you want some advice? And I was like, sure. He's just like, get into tech. And that was something that I heard when I was 16, and being born and raised out here in the Bay Area. It's always been in the back of the, kind of hanging there. I said, I'm very, very fortunate to be in this area during the whole tech boom and everything that's been going on with a lot of these startups. I said that's what planted the seed, and eventually I did pursue it, and currently in tech sales as of right now. I've done SaaS, I've done cybersecurity, worked for marketing automation as well too, and I'm currently working with one of the biggest CRM-centric AI solutions as of right now.
Very cool. I think it's kind of interesting because I myself grew up in the Bay Area as well, and you don't really think about the area you grew up in, that you're sitting in the middle of the Silicon Valley, where it's like technology companies everywhere. When you don't grow up exposed to technology, you don't even think twice about it. And then when you see what that world looks like, it grabs your attention.
Yeah,
Like, well,
definitely.
this is possible. How do I get into this? Right. Um, I was always told too by my grandfather growing up. He was a sheet metal worker, and he was like, hey, when you grow up, get a computer job, And so we didn't even own a computer in the house growing up. So I didn't know what that looked like. But that's interesting. So did you go straight into sales, technology sales, or did you have a jumping off point?
Yeah, no. So literally for me, I literally right after high school just started working. I worked retail. I used to work at Kohl's. That was an interesting, kind of like first job and stuff. Just, a lot of interaction with individuals in the retail world. And then I made a transition out of that, and eventually started working at a casino. In particular, it was very fun, but different. I said there's a lot of crazies out there, I realized, and a lot of people that'll spend money foolishly, but I'll leave it at that. And then eventually I did transition into selling insurance, and that's where it kind of started. And I tell people, tech was always a thing for me, but I never really saw myself as someone that in sales, because I know sales tends to get, bad repetition on things. And for myself, just talking to certain people, are like, hey, I feel like you'd be very good. I mean, you're very personable. And I guess that's what kind of threw a little bit more of belief in me to be able to pursue it, was just the fact that, other people were saying good things and like, oh, we could see you do it. And eventually I made that transition into insurance and, selling certain insurance products and such. And that's what kind of was I guess, the gateway into the path that I eventually took.
That's interesting because I think that that holds a lot of weight when somebody sees something in you and they can pull that out of you, like, hey, you know what you're gonna be really good at, and based off of your personality, how you carry yourself, I think you'd be really good at this. I think that does plant something in us to where we start paying attention to that, and because sometimes we're blind to what we're good at. But if, when someone else sees something in us and kind of points us a direction, I
Hmm.
think that does make a big difference, and just goes a long way to, if we see something in somebody, encourage them to fan that flame. But okay, so you start off, insurance. I can see how that transition. Um, so it sounds like you got that early interest in tech from working with your dad when you were 16. Then you got into insurance, and but you still have this desire to eventually get into tech, right?
Yes, and
Um,
for me, yes, no, the goal was always get in tech. I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do within tech. So, I mean, it was just kind of it was just a broad stroke at the time of just like, hey, I just know I got to arrive somewhere over there. I don't know how I'm going to get there or what I'm going to do, what vehicle I'm taking, but it's just like I just knew that I had to get into that and get into that field.
so how did you for somebody listening who wants to get into tech? I mean, you didn't mention any college or anything, so I'm assuming you didn't take any college courses. Um, it's kind of, you just did a do-it-yourself, open a book and start learning about different technologies, and was that kind of how it happened?
Yeah. So luckily for me, like I said, when I started doing insurance and stuff, there was an individual. His name was John Sepulveda. That's the one that kind of threw that belief into me, and he was someone that was a big mentor of mine. There's a lot of things that I learned just from not only from sales, but like from a life standpoint, certain things. And I said there's a lot of knowledge he's able to pass. So it was just one of those things where I guess I just kind of borrowed belief from him and myself. And that's ultimately what got me that drive of eventually like, hey, like I need to get after, I need to get out, I need to do this. And it was just honestly just working, it's just timing. I mean, I started at a company. I started off as an SDR at a cloud security company. So we're securing cloud
What's
applications.
a FCR?
CRO, it's a sales development rep. So I tell people this is like
Okay,
the bottom of the barrel in sales. I mean, I started off making cold calls, calling into organizations, that were leveraging cloud applications, but they might not be as secured. So it's something as simple as Dropbox or, Office 365. Those organizations, they're interacting with them, uploading, downloading data. And I said that's where we kind of came in and we're ultimately able to protect data from walking out the front door
gotcha.
and stuff. So
Sure.
and that's kind of what jump started it for me. I remember going through like the interview process and I remember meeting with the CEO at the time and I remember going through it and I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous. I mean, this is all brand new stuff to me. Like, yeah, I've reviewed it online. I've read, the articles and stuff that they were publishing, but it was just like I still didn't have that belief that I was gonna be in there and be able to convince people. Because I'm just like, that was I guess you can call it imposter syndrome. It was just one of those things where it's just
Sure.
like, okay, like one, I mean, it's intimidating sitting with the CEO during an interview towards the tail end of an interview, regardless of anything. And instead of this something you're not accustomed to, then it's going to be a little bit extra more scarier. So it was just, trying to, pull that through together and ultimately sat with them and they're just like, hey, give us your explanation of this. And it was just like, okay. And I explained it to them in simple terms because I'm a simple man. And I said they liked what they heard, and they said they're like, there's something about you, you stand out a little bit more than others. And I said, and that's ultimately what jump started my career when it came to tech sales was that transition into one of those first startups. Like I said, being here in the Bay Area, very fortunate because there are companies that are popping up left and right, even AI companies as of right now.
Yeah. So would you tell him you can sell ice to an Escobar?
Yes, Jordan Belfort, I was like, sell me this pin.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's cool, man. And I think, I mean, that's, for one, that's pretty brave, jumping into a field that's as broad as technology. There's so many
Hmm.
different facets to technology. Cybersecurity, you got app development, now
Hmm.
AI, right?
Yeah,
And so
a
there's a lot.
major learning
Yeah,
curve
and
was.
and it's constantly changing. So there's a lot to try to keep the pulse on. Always learning, right?
Hmm. Yes.
So you got your first start at a tech company. Now, going back to when you were 16 and you got exposed to what a, I think you said it was IBM, right?
Mhm.
What the tech world kind of looks like. What were you thinking when you landed that first job?
I almost called my mom and told her to quit and be like, "Mama, we made it." No, it was, like I said, it was super exciting. I think for me, it was just, it was exciting because it was like, here I am working at this startup. And then at the time they had a certain technology that no one had ever had to. We're able to do reverse proxy, which allowed you to access applications without the device actually being corporate owned. So if you're just accessing, for like,
Sure.
for example, like from your cell phone or grandma's PC, and there's something you got to jump on and look at work, we were the only ones that were able to do that. So for me, it was just like when I heard that, I was like, no one else is doing this. It's untapped from a technology standpoint. At the time, was starting to move to the cloud, and everyone's moving off this on-prem kind of stance on things. I said it was a good time, and it was just perfect timing. And I said for me, it was just I started out there on at the bottom, just kind of making cold calls, booking meetings for individuals on our team, reps and stuff, and just learn from them. And what I did too is when I got in, I leveraged a lot of technical resources internally. There's a lot of engineers that I used to take out for lunch and stuff, and even some of the other product people. And was like, listen, like I do not know this. I want to know this
Yeah.
because I'm going to be interacting with people with this. Like I need to learn. Just break it down for me, and I just try to soak it up as much as a sponge. But like you're saying, things are always changing in tech, and that was something that for me early on in my career, it was just like the first 3 6 months, it's like okay, but then 6 months down the road, it's not really the same conversation. There's things that are evolving, or there's something latest and greatest when it came to breaches at the time. So it was just like, okay, so you always had to be willing to adapt, willing to adjust. And I said, and for me, that's what made it fun. Like every day is not going to be the same day. There's always going to be something new. So that's for me, that's what I've always enjoyed, is just kind of the chaos of not knowing, but still at the same time having a pulse on things.
No, that's interesting. I like how you played off your strengths, but you also realized, hey, I'm weak in these areas, and you went to the experts and said, hey, guys, you know, uh, and you're just upfront honest with them, like, I can sell. I'm a sales guy. I just don't know your product. Teach me. And I
Hmm.
think that having that humble attitude of here's the gaps I have. Help me get smart here, guys. And now that's a good solid technique, to and I think that, companies appreciate that. They appreciate the honesty. They saw something in you. There's skills you can't teach and there's skills you can teach, right? So when somebody sees a certain skill set in you that's desirable and they can use, many times the company will say, well, we can teach him the rest. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Um, they kind of sell themselves short, or they don't even try because, like, I don't know everything, so I can't get into
Hmm.
the field.
And
It's
then,
like, well, no,
and
you have.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, no, I was going to say that's
No, you're
that's
good.
perfectly that's perfectly it. It's just I guess I was willing to fail, and as long the way I viewed it was very simple. It was like I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm willing to make those mistakes, but I just got to make sure I learn from those mistakes, and that's what it comes down to. And I feel like in sales, is there's gonna be things that you can control and there's things that you can't control, but it's just how much of the things you can control you can do right, and ultimately just learn from it, and just you're gonna make a mess. I mean, I know I did. I'm sure some of the people that I worked with when I was a new hire were like, oh, this kid is just, yes, he just making foolish mistakes, calling the wrong people, just like some simple things. If you do enough of little things right, eventually you'll get to where you need to do. And I tell people,
I'm,
for
s-
me, the engine was running. It just needed a driver, and that was it.
that's funny because I'm sure, like, the engineers, they're probably like, hey, what did you promise the customer that we're gonna
Oh
have to
yeah,
deliver, right?
some of my best friends, I still talk to them to this day on a weekly basis. So we just laugh about it.
That's funny. Hey, I've been on that side as well as, you talk to the customer, and they're like, hey, the sales guy promised us this. And me on the engineering side, like, how do I deliver that? Why did the sales guy tell him that?
See, I see. Luckily, see, they love me because I wasn't that type that promised roadmaps. I know that there's certain individuals that will promise you the roadmap, and then once things are going, they're like, "Hey, they said this will be here." It's like, yeah, not for like another
Yep.
like month or two, and it's just like, what? They said it was gonna be here this week. It's like, the feature's not available yet.
Yeah, that features in our strategic roadmap, not our.
Yeah. It's on a
No, that's
slideshow
cool.
somewhere.
Yeah, that's funny. And so you got into your first techs. Was that a company, a startup at the time, or was that an
Yes.
established company?
Yeah, so it was a startup, and I mean it was an interesting time because for when it came to cloud security, we weren't viewed as a leader. When I started, we were considered a visionary. So from a challenging standpoint, what made it a little bit hard was the fact that because we weren't viewed as a leader, people didn't want to meet or talk to us. It was just like you guys are
Gotcha.
called visionaries, but it's like why would we meet with you guys when there's three other people that are top of mind? And I said that, and for me that was a challenge, but it made it fun at the same time because it's like okay, so when I get in there, if I do get in there, how could I make a compelling story or say something that's going to be impactful for them to even want to continue the conversation? So that was just, part of a little bit of the battle. And I think, yes, it was a bummer because it's just like, oh man, I got to get in the trenches. But at the same time, it was valuable because it gave me a lot of experience for later on down the road. And, even things now is just like there's simple objections people give. And it just rolls off the tongue because it's just like I was exposed to a lot of this kind of
Yeah.
growing up in my career that now it's just like it doesn't even phase me. It's just like a just water off the duck's back.
You have the playbook written out, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like, oh yeah, I've heard that one before. That's on page 27. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, okay. So you're at a startup, and then did you are you still at that startup? And I think you said you moved on to another company
No.
now, but
Yes. Yeah. Eventually, I ended up getting out of security, so I took a break. Went to another startup that was involved with like lead routing and matching for organizations. So like, simple way to explain it is you go to a website or I don't know, whoever you buy things from and you put in your contact information, let's say like a request for contact. And on the back end, what we're able to do is gather your information and make sure you get routed to the right rep. So if it's something from a customer service standpoint, or if you're someone like that's net new, just trying to get an inquiry about something, a new car, or something that you saw online from one of the dealerships, we're able to do that, be able to route it to the right rep. So took a break from security, but it said it was still SaaS sales from that standpoint.
okay. And when you say SaaS, for those who are not familiar with the term, it's just software as a service, um, cloud lingo. Okay, and then so you moved over from the startup to
Hmm.
that company. I mean, being in surrounded by technology companies, I'm sure once you establish yourself as a competitive in technology sales, companies want to pull you over to their, hey, you're doing a good job over there. Why don't you come work for us type of thing?
Yes, no, that's a great point to bring up because I feel like majority of the companies that I've worked with have come from my network, and it's just because of, and even now, like the company that I am, there are people that I worked with that I worked at different companies that were in different departments. So it's kind of funny. Like we joke around and say like everyone knows each other out here, and honestly there is some truth, and it's even funny because when I've gone to other companies, I've covered the East Coast, I've covered the West Coast, I've covered different regions here in the United States. And I always still run into people that I know and they're like, hey, do you happen to know this person? And it's just like, well, yeah, like I used to work with them over at blah, 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 or I used to work at them over here. And so I said, it's kind of at the end of the day, it's a small world. And I said, my advice would always be just, network, never burn bridges. Cause I mean, at the end of the day, you'd be surprised who you run into and stuff. So just, just keep that top of mind when you're starting to get involved and tech and such.
Yeah, and I mean, fitting with the theme of this channel, right? So, I part of my goal for this channel is to highlight like God honoring occupations that add value to the local community, local society, business. I mean, it sounds like your sales had probably had a global impact. And so, I mean, I can see how once you believe in a product, hey, this is a email security product that's going to benefit your organization in a positive way, right? Or cloud security. It's kind of easy to sell those products because you're selling a good service.
Hmm.
You're
Definitely.
not trying to like pull one over on them. Like the product kind of sells itself. You just have to convince why they need it, which I mean, a lot of it's regulatory.
Hmm.
Companies are required to have these products, and many companies they'll purchase a product for a little while, and something else new comes out that has new features, and they want the latest and greatest. Like right now with AI, right? Are
Hmm.
you seeing any trends with AI? Um,
Yes, it's everywhere. I tell people it's a major buzzword right now. Everyone you say AI and it's like, oh, AI, but it's just like, all right, you got to ask them like what does that mean to you? Like everyone. I mean, when I
Yeah.
grew up as what AI as a kid, it was the Terminator. It was, the T-1000s and stuff. And they're here to take over the world. But no, I mean, I feel like, would you back to your question? But yes, no, it's something that does come up top of mind for a lot of organizations. And I mean, for me, it's very simple. It's just talking to these organizations and just figuring out like what are the goals? Like what are you trying to accomplish and the next before end of year, what's top of mind from, your working standpoint, operation standpoint. And so we just start there and just kind of figure out, kind of a strategy or game plan of where we could fit in to help out with your, whether it's your operations or, your sales team, your marketing team. It's just one of those things where I said it's top of mind for a lot of people, but it's just there's still don't know where they want to go with it, and that's the fun part of being for me being in sales is being able to have those conversations. Because I mean, if you had told me at 16 that I was going to have conversations like this, I wouldn't have believed you. I'd have been like, okay,
No,
like it's yeah, it was so
absolutely.
far fetched for me that it said it's kind of funny just being involved in it now, and it's something that I take in on a daily.
Yeah, and especially like I think we've already said this, but like jumping into tech sales, I mean, a field that's changes so rapidly. I mean, knowing folks who work in cybersecurity, that's another field that changes rapidly, and you're always having to learn. But I couldn't imagine having to keep smart on the latest and greatest technology because that's what you have to sell.
Mhm.
That seems like it's a big task, but it seems like you're doing it pretty well.
I mean, I said it's just one of those things where it's like once you establish a baseline of an understanding. And then I said it's you have conversations daily. So that's one way I think for me that I've been able to learn is just being around like being around the pot and the cauldron. It's just I'm always around it, so it's always top of mind and things come up. And to be honest with you, being in sales, some people will ask questions that I don't have the answer for, and it's just hey, like sorry, I don't have the answer. I'll go ahead and get back to you on that. But it's just at the end of the day, it's just being honest with people, and I think that's what has allowed me to excel when it comes to working with people is the fact that it's just I'm not an expert. I'm humble enough to admit when I'm wrong. And let's just, work together and just, put our best foot forward and see if it's going to be a good fit. If it's not a good fit, hey, no harm, no done. I can continue on this way. You can continue on that way. There's no reason we can't be friends. We can't be cordial. Say hi to each other at the games
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And that's something that I feel like a lot of people just kind of tend to miss is just, you hear sales and it has such a stigmatism to it, but it's not, it's not like what the movies make it sound like.
Going back to what we talked about earlier, when you're providing a good service to a company, they trust you and the product actually does what it says it does, and so there's some loyalty there, right? You're bringing a valuable service to a business, a corporation, and making their job easier, and their daily tasks, right? And so that helps to establish those relationships because you don't want to burn bridges in the Bay Area with a bunch of tech companies around you. I'm sure your
Oh
name will
yeah.
get around pretty quick, right?
Oh yeah, they'll definitely. I mean, I feel like, and plus, I said when you're able to help them, and I said you're able to do everything that you're able to do for them, you make them look like rock stars because, like you had mentioned, you make their job a lot easier. If there's something that's daunting for them on an operation standpoint, and they're able to fix it, and they go to their boss, and they're hopefully they get a raise. They'll probably just get a high five or a pizza party, and that's about it. But I said it's a good thing at the end of the day to be able to help out, have these conversations, and then be able to address the issues for them.
Some of the key things that stick out to me is no technical training, just a desire and a work hard ethic. And you were able to you had a goal, you wanted to get in technology, didn't go to college, self study, self taught, just hard work and going after it and got you to where you're at today. So, get into technology without having to, go to a 4-year institution and
Mhm.
especially nowadays with all the resources we have now with YouTube and all the online training we have
Well, if I had
and
Chat
AI, right?
GPT years ago, oh my goodness, I would have made my life a lot easier.
No, that's good. But I mean, that speaks a lot about yourself, your dedication to accomplishing what you set your mind to. Any You gonna stay in technology sales, or you want to venture off to some other areas, or you like where you're at right now?
No, I definitely like where I'm at. I have an opportunity to work with AI right now. We're at a time right now with it to where it hasn't reached its full potential. So to be able to ride that wave, I said it's definitely something that I still want to stay in. And I said just keep moving up the ranks, and I said just keep having these conversations and become an expert with it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, if you'd be able to have simple conversations with individuals on a daily basis about it, just certain projects and everything. I feel like it's super impactful. And I said it's one of those things where I said it's the kind of the buzzword, but I said it honestly just being involved with this, it is the future when it comes to some things and actually a lot of things I should say, being able to make life a lot easier for organizations, whether it's healthcare or anything like that. I said it's going to be super impactful once the real training wheels kind of come off. It's kind of a crawl walk approach right now, but when it's going to be full fledged running, it's going to be fun, exciting.
Do you get asked a lot? How did you get into your career?
Yeah, I do. And it's funny because a lot of people when we talk and everything and people see my experience are like, wow, like you have a lot of experience. Like, you went to like, what'd you get like your bachelor's in cybersecurity or like, how'd you like make that transition like into this? I'm just like, no, it just happened. It was just timing. And for me, I was just willing to outwork a lot of people. And it was just a hard work mentality. It was just like, hey, like, I know I'm not the greatest, so I'm going to have to work twice as hard as other people. And that I just carried that mentality the entire time was that. It was just like, hey, like I'll put in the effort and effort. That's funny. Effort beats talent anytime. And that was something that one of the things that one of my mentors used to always tell me is like effort beats talent any day, especially when talent's lazy. You just have always applied that.
It's funny that you say it, because that's something I've that's a line I use as well. Um, I'm not the smartest person on the team. I know that, but I have to work twice as hard as everybody else, just because I'm not at the level that they're at. That's a lot of times what people want to see. But I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that you were mentored. You sought out a mentor to kind of take you under his wing and hey, do these type of things, and you listen to them, and got the success you have today, based off your hard work and listening to the right people, right?
No, yeah, I said definitely. I said leveraging people that I worked with. I said that were a lot smarter. And then for me, just reading as well too. So that was one thing that I focused on as well too, and kind of developing some of my business skills is just making sure that I'm sharp on those things as well, and just not sharp on one thing and dull with another, but just kind of having a clear balance and working on certain weaknesses that I have.
Awesome. Is there anything before we wrap it up here? Anything you'd like to say to somebody who's considering maybe following a similar path you did, or a technology career in general?
I would honestly just do it. I mean, literally just do it. Like there's nothing else that I guess I can say. At the end of the day, it's your decision. You know what's going to be best for you. For me, it's just know and just be comfortable with rejection when it comes to sales. That's another thing. I think that's what kind of steers people away. Is just like, oh no, what if they say no? Who cares? Think about you grew up as a kid. And how many times your parents tell you no? So I mean, it's
That's
one of
true.
those things when it comes for I guess from a validation standpoint. It's like you've already heard the words no. Like this, it's it's just one of those things where you just got to move past it. And that's for me. That was something that was very easy to get over with was the fact that I was willing to go through all the no's. I mean, there's times where I'd get like a no for a week straight, but I was just like, I gotta just keep after it and just keep grinding and make this work. And I said, and eventually it panned out. Like at the time, yeah, at the time I would not be saying this, just how I was, but it's just one of those things where, it's just, you just gotta apply yourself and that's it. And if you're willing to work and, maybe you might view yourself at being a disadvantage, but like I said, if you're someone that's gonna willing to work and, apply yourself, then there's no reason that nothing can get in your way of what it is that you want to accomplish.
Sounds good, and we'll end it on that. And I appreciate you letting us tell your occupation story, Chay, and maybe we can circle back some other time in the future and hear what you got going on.
Hopefully you'll see me on a billboard somewhere.
Look forward to it. Thank you again for sharing your story with us.
Absolutely. Appreciate being on the call, Anthony.